Welcome to Freezer Milk Podcast. I'm your host, Bridget, along with my husband, Chris. Podcast where we talk about the comedic side and serious side of parenting, life, and relationships. We are boy parents. We have two boys, Enzo and Rhett, with about a 6-year age gap between the two. You can check out our website, freezermilk.com. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram at Freezer Milk Podcast. Thanks and hope you enjoy. All right.
Start that over. Jesus Christ.
I'll just cut it out. Your face. Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining in. I wanted to give a quick shout out to our friend Mortgage Dad AZ and his wife who just had their baby. And also our friend Lakia, who just had her first kid. Yay!
Woot woot, good luck.
Woot, woot. You guys got this.
Listen to the podcast.
So we haven't had a chance to debrief Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas was rough.
You want to set the background?
Yeah, we as a family decided to change scenery because we live in a climate that is very dry, very brown during the Christmas season, and typically all you see is palm trees. Like most people think that that seeing palm trees on Christmas would be a good thing, but where we're at, the weather's nice, but you get tired of it. So we decided we wanted a white Christmas this year, and we went up north, and boy did we get a white Christmas. That was an interesting trip straight out the gate. The whole family went. It was me and Bridget and Enzo and the baby, and all I can say is car trips and car rides are wonderful with all four of us that are over an hour.
And we saw a super scary accident.
And we did see a super scary accident on the way up there. But when we got up there, it was nice. This cabin that we rented was out in the middle of nowhere.
We should rephrase. So not cabin, 3,000 square foot house.
Yeah, it was a big house, actually, in the middle of the woods.
But it was us, your sister and her family, your mom and her boyfriend, your nephews,
yep, it was the whole
friends of the family. It was a bunch of people.
Right. Probably way too many to stuff into even a 3,000 square foot house.
I would agree.
Well, we're always kind of hesitant on travel with my family only because it's just so chaotic most of the time. But we decided to give it a shot because I wanted to wake up on Christmas and see some snow. And know that I got to return back to the valley where there is no snow. But we got up there and
we were the first ones up there.
We were the first ones up there, so we scoped out the house and were able to kind of figure out where we were going to put our stuff, where we were going to take the baby, and where Enzo would sleep, and etc. Beautiful house, by the way.
And then chaos ensued.
And
everybody arrived.
And it was just nonstop go, go, go. My sister is
Energizer Bunny?
An Energizer Bunny. She's very frantic. She's very compulsive. Everything's got to be perfect. Everything's got to be her way. My mom she used to be like that. She's calmed down quite a bit as she's gotten older, but she can be that way as well. So putting them in the same room together is a daunting task, and it's a lot to ask of anybody.
The nephews are teenage boys, yep. So they are exactly what that describes. Teenage boys.
They're teenage boys that
sleep till 2.
They're up all night. They eat junk food. They're messy. They're loud. They wrestle. It's just nonstop chaos.
Constantly wondering all week what they're going to break in this Airbnb.
Yeah, my nephew didn't come out of his room the entire time we were there. Him and his brother stayed up in this room the entire time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, well, but they
brought their Xbox and
yeah, whatever. Then all the little kids had the giant media room, and they all were playing tag and hide and go seek and running back and forth and making noise. And needless to say, when you're bouncing across the floor, and so getting the baby to sleep was
impossible,
basically non-existent.
We had pack and play, and he slept in it in Hawaii. He slept pretty good in it.
Yeah, he did all right there, but I think there was just too much going on. There was too many people. There was kids. There was this. There was that. Everybody wanted to hold him.
I don't want to say our house is mausoleum quiet, but it is very
we have a very controlled environment here. You know, the air condition. You know, we set the air conditioning at a certain temperature.
But the house is very quiet too. Like when
quiet.
Enzo's here, there's noise, and when Enzo's not here, like the TV's on, that kind of stuff. But there's not a bunch of conversation, a bunch of loudness. Like it's very
relaxed.
Mellow. Yeah, like we're a very mellow house.
Yeah, we're not bouncing around playing loud music.
And a karaoke machine at one point set up, like on the speakers.
Singing and making noise, and you know, it was great for what it was. It was, you know, the experience was. It was nice to see the snow. The only time we got Rhett, to sleep was I'd have to take him for car rides, and I would take him. I would drive all throughout Flagstaff.
You took
like 2.5.
You dropped us off at a movie.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 hours. I would just be driving around aimlessly while this baby slept because I knew he needed it.
Yeah, he would not sleep all night. He wanted only to sleep in bed. And he was waking up, every, hour?
Yep. It was rough. It was very, very tough.
I was so scared he was going to, roll off the bed.
Yeah, it was tough. It was just an experience in itself. Plus, my mom had her boyfriend there who, from a health standpoint, isn't the healthiest. He
recently had surgery.
He can't walk very well. He tries, but, and she is kind of taking care of him. Yeah. In a way, and she's tired of that kind of deal, and I don't know. It was just, I don't know if I could sum it up in one word, but it was just a lot. It was a lot for us, especially.
It was also 7. It's supposed to be 7 days.
Yeah, and
we did not last 7 days.
No, we didn't last 7 days. We actually drove home on Christmas Day,
9 a.m. You're like, I'm done. Pack the truck. Get out.
Christmas Eve, we went to bed. We were up all night. I wasn't getting any sleep. I finally woke up in the morning. I said, pack your shit. Let's go. I'm out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Your mom and your sister were so mad.
Yeah, they were really upset that we were leaving. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, I'm out.
Your sister was like, I'm making this big delicious meal. You're like, none of it's dairy free.
Yeah, because we're all dairy free here. It was just I think it was too much. I think we learned that, it was what it was. We did it last year, and next year we will bolt the door, and we'll be hopefully in our new house and
do our own thing.
We'll do our own thing for both holidays, and and then New Year's as well, and we'll just go that route this time versus.
I think you and I talked about though, even if it was just our family, you, me, Enzo, Rhett, even 6 days is too long.
Yeah,
for us.
We don't travel as a family unit. We can't travel for more than about 4 or 5 days.
I would say 4 days.
We can't do it. And even actually, even when we went to Bora Bora, it was a similar situation. We were like, you know what?
Bora Bora we wanted one more day.
Yeah.
Maldives was too long. Bora Bora we limited to 5 days.
Yep. And then Maldives was what?
7.
7 days. Yeah. So we don't travel. We don't like to travel any more than about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. I think we just have to remember that.
Yep.
For future.
I think we're just, homebodies. The one thing that this pandemic has done to us, that it's made us homebodies, and very, rightfully so. We are more comfortable here. We have what we need here, and, we don't have to deal with what's out there, and I think that's kind of where we're at, and then you throw my family into it, and it's just chaos. It's just, and Enzo's attitude changed drastically, and he hasn't really rebounded from it.
I think so. He was around a lot of people for a week with Christmas at our house, and then also at his dad's, because we exchanged right before Christmas. He went to his dad's for Christmas this year. He was around a lot of people there too, because his dad's fiance's family all came up. So Enzo for 8 days has been around a ton of people, a bunch of kids constantly. So this past weekend we struggled.
It was rough.
Enzo at one point broke down crying to you. And what did he say?
He was just saying, he was telling me, because he had been acting out, and we've been kind of hard on him. We've been, I don't want to say berating him, but we've just been correcting him, and a lot more than we normally would. And I finally was just like, what's going on? What is your deal? And he just broke down crying, and I was like, what is up? And he's like, nothing. And then I finally was able to pry it out of him, and he's just like, I'm lonely. I don't even really know how to respond to that, because, what do you tell him? My excuse was, buddy, I understand where you're coming from. We're in a pandemic, and it's hard to go play with friends, and, we're stuck at home, and we're, But we are here, and we have each other, and, you know, luckily me and Mom work from home. I know we're working a lot of the time, but, you know, we are here.
It's crazy because a year ago, we did virtual kindergarten for the entire year.
Yep.
And he not once
complained about
being lonely. It's a mix of now he's around kids because he's in person school.
Yeah.
And then for the holiday break, he was around kids nonstop.
But I mean, at the same time, is it healthy for him to be around people all the time?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, you got to learn to be by yourself sometimes. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be all the time, but, you know, you should be sometimes.
It's tough, too. So we kind of talked about, like, well, what do we do? You know, because he's lonely. So we sat down and had some Monopoly Junior time, and you took him out to ride his scooter.
Played Uno.
We played Uno. And then it kind of bit us in the ass.
Yeah,
because then the rest of the day, he was asking to do things like, hey, let's go do the scooter again. Let's play another game. And we're like, bud,
man,
where is the balance?
Yeah, I need some time to myself. I need to be able to breathe. I got the baby too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's a lot. I think, you know, we also took away, you know, some privilege with screen time, and we cut back his overall screens time, whether it be his Switch or his TV, and we cut those hours way back because we've been forced to, just because we feel like A, he's not paying attention, B, it's not healthy.
He's not being a good listener.
And he's not, he's just, his attitude has changed so much, and it's you know, I don't know, I'm hoping it's just a phase, but at the same time,
it's all he wants to talk about, too.
I'm constantly questioning myself, am I doing the right thing for this kid? Like, am I making the right decisions? You know, I go back to my childhood, and, you know, when I was younger, I spent all my time outside. I was always with, you know, outside doing something. If I wasn't with my friends, I was outside playing basketball, skating, whatever the case may be. But you know, times have changed. You can't let a 7-year-old go out front by himself very often nowadays,
And he's not a huge outdoorsy kid. And I think that's almost the challenge of parenting, is learning how to parent a child that's not like you were as a child.
Right.
You know, and trying to stretch and grow yourself in that way.
Because I remember when I was young, I got bored. But at the same time, my mom wasn't around.
Yeah.
My dad would not entertain.
Yeah.
Like, he was not the type of person to just, hey, I'm going to figure out what to do for you. No, you go figure it out. And, you know, have fun. Be safe. That's kind of where it went.
It's tough, too, because he's in a split household situation. So at his dad's house, he has his grandparents living there, which they are amazing people, and they absolutely adore the hell out of Enzo. They also enable this mentality of there's always somebody that's willing to do stuff with me and willing to hang out with me, willing to do a puzzle or play a board game or anything. And it makes it challenging because at our house, we don't have
a built-in
grandparents that live here that are able to do that.
We bring my mom over during the week, but she's typically here to help with
she's
the
not
baby.
She's not typically here when Enzo's here. She's typically here when he's at school.
Yeah, and she's helping with the baby because we're working. But, man, it's just been...
It's tough to find that balance, and it's tough. He's in a phase right now of he doesn't listen, he doesn't pay attention. It was like when we went to exchange him, he was like, hey, I need to go potty. Right when we got to where we were exchanging him. So we're like, okay.
And I heard you before we left the house. You're like, make sure you go to the bathroom.
He did. That's the crazy part. He just had to go again.
Yeah.
So we drove over to the closest gas station. And we're like, okay, we'll drive over here so you can go potty. And we drive over there. And the minute it took to get from point A to point B, you opened the truck and you got out. And Enzo just sat there. And I was like, what are you doing? He was like, what do you mean? I was like, get out to go potty.
Yeah, it's...
He was, oh, okay. And I'm like, what is happening? Are you just not remembering this? Are you that absent-minded? Are you like, what?
It's kind of scary.
It is. And that kind of leads into Enzo right now seems to have a struggle with reality versus not reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all of our listeners out there, if you guys have gone through this, please shoot us a message on Instagram or on Facebook, or contact us on our website. We would love to know your insight and your input on how to deal with this. So Enzo
he's a very imaginative kid.
Not for imagination play, though.
No.
But he talks about how, like, in his dreams he goes to sleep and he goes into outer space and visits other worlds and is like, oh yeah, there's other worlds out there. And I'm like, yes, that's not reality. You know, and he's like, no, but there's like over 100 different planets. And I'm like, I don't think that's been discovered. That there's over 100 planets. He's like, well, there's 2 other planets that speak English like we do. And I'm like, that's definitely not been discovered.
Right.
And he like adamantly believes this.
Well, and he was telling me the other day that his only friends were his ghost friends. And I'm like, you know, I'm a huge believer in the supernatural and, you know, unexplained and, you know, I start thinking about it and I'm like, you know, I've watched some shows and I've seen some things and there's been these, you know, certain situations where kids are haunted and houses are haunted. But I'm like, is that what he's experiencing? Or does he actually believe that he has these types of friends?
Like make-believe friends.
Like make-believe types of friends. And I'm like...
He's coming up on 7. He's going to be 7 very soon.
I'm like, I get young kids have imaginations. They, you know, especially that's what, you know, the TV time, you know, we limit what he sees. At the same time, they make stuff that's very, you know, out there. And so who knows if he's just pulling that stuff from the TV and he's just saying it, but it's kind of worrisome. Like what are you really experiencing? Can you really decipher reality from, you know, fictional? And I don't know that he can.
The crazy part is, though, he's so fucking funny sometimes. Remember when he said, here's an onion to you the other day?
Yeah.
What was it about? You were upset about something? And so he went, here's an onion so you can cry?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
Like, just out of nowhere, here's an onion so you can cry. Like, it's so tough. Because he doesn't seem necessarily always able to discern.
I feel like such a bad parent because I'll yell at him and try to correct him. It makes me feel like I'm a bad parent. Because is he acting this way because I'm a bad parent? Or are we not disciplining? You know, are we not parenting enough? Whatever the case. And I feel like we're pretty on, you know, we try to be on top of it. We have to be. It's just a struggle. It just makes you feel really bad when you have to punish your kid for whatever.
Not being a good listener, or
I don't know how many times I have to repeat, like, you know, the boundary situation. How many times do I got to tell you that you need to respect people's personal space?
Enzo's love language is physical touch.
It's very difficult because mine is not.
No.
I am not a physical touch person.
And Enzo loves to, like, climb on you, lay on you, use you as a jungle gym.
Yep, and it's constant.
Just constantly hanging on you.
Yep. And it gives me anxiety because I don't like to be touched all the time.
And it's tough because you tell him not to and he doesn't listen.
No.
So then it's like...
And then he's like, you know, he comes back and he's like, oh, I didn't know, or...
Oh, I forgot.
Or...
It's because it's like a subconscious. It's not a conscious touch. It's, you know, it's just almost like a subconscious thing where he'll, like, start leaning against you and then
I understand that's like a comfort thing for him. When it comes to children, are we allowed, as parents, are we allowed to have boundaries when it comes to kids?
You're supposed to.
I mean, or is it a free-for-all? You know, and that's where I'm like, you know, I give him kind of a hard time for not being able to decipher reality from, you know, fictional, but at the same time, I can't really decipher the difference between, you know, if I'm certain things I'm allowed to do, and you know, I don't know. It's just frustrating. Tough. It's tough. It's very exhausting. Like Sunday was a very challenging day for our family. That didn't help. The baby wasn't feeling good, and we were both just completely exhausted, and Enzo just wanted constant attention. And I'm like, you know, and you hear all these horror stories about, you know, children and not getting enough attention when they're that age and growing up, and you know, they turn into awful people, and that, like, kind of scares me.
Because you never know, like, how much attention is too much.
Right.
You know,
like,
how do we give you enough attention, but not giving you too much attention to the point where we lose our own time?
Right. Because at the end of the day, our individual time, for our relational, you know, our relationship, our time is very important.
Right now, this phase, and I'm hoping it gets better when he goes back to school this week. But right now, this phase makes it very difficult for us to want to do anything with Enzo.
Yep.
Like, everything is a challenge. Grocery shopping was a nightmare.
Yep. Just not listening all over the place. I want this. Can we get this?
It's just the constant shiny object, super loud voice.
Yep. just disrespectful. It's hard to take him anywhere, you know. We can't take him in a car ride without him wanting something to entertain him on the drive.
Or his legs bothering him.
Or his legs are bothering him because he has really bad leg pains or growing pains.
Talk about placebo effect with kids.
Right.
Fuck. This kid has had the worst growing pains forever. We've talked about this. You give this kid an ice pack, or if he gets like Tylenol or Motrin or anything, within 30 seconds,
I'm good.
Magically better.
He's out there riding his scooter, jumping around, wanting to play soccer. I'm like, I need to just come up with some kind of concoction because Tylenol, the Tylenols and ibuprofens are expensive. I'll just come up with a homemade like syrup
Right.
that I give him.
The sugar syrup.
A sugar syrup.
Berry flavored, bubblegum flavored.
You know, it's unbelievable. I don't know. Any advice anybody has, I'd be willing to hear it. So
yeah, it's a challenging time right now. We haven't been in a space like this before.
How'd you feel about going, being up with my family for Christmas and, doing that whole deal?
It was... You lasted longer than I thought you would. I thought you were going to tap out like day 4 and be done.
I was going to tap out day 1 and drive home.
It was exhausting.
We worked, too.
Yeah, we worked the first couple days. It was tough, though. Like, it was just... I always feel like an outsider with your family.
Me too.
Like, I feel like...
I don't relate to any of them.
No. And I think that's the tough part, is that we are very different than they are.
We see things differently.
We do.
We're not indecisive people.
We have different, just within the family, like, there's multiple political views and... Backgrounds and level of decisiveness and how people go about, like, communication styles and how kids act. We were very strict on Enzo while we were there. Just, and we let him off the leash quite a bit as far as giving him some freedom, but we were still very strict. But compared to everyone else's kids, whew. And just like stuff like, I don't want to say it's common sense, but if you have adults that are standing around the living room and all the kids are lounging out completely on the sofas and not making space for the adults, it's kind of rude.
When they have a giant media room upstairs.
They have a giant media room upstairs. The floor is available. Like,
yeah, I had to sit back in that
office chair
the entire time.
Like behind in the back corner behind the sofa.
I sat way back in the corner in an office chair.
It just made us feel like more excluded, I think.
Yeah, I just didn't feel very involved at all. And then baby not sleeping, I was done.
And we had to have all of our own food because everything they made did have dairy. They didn't make anything really that didn't.
Yeah, we were constantly cleaning up after people because naturally this was on my Airbnb account, and I just was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I was done. After our Christmas day, we were just ready to go. So
I think I relate very much to you, but I don't necessarily relate.
I'm a lot different than them.
Yes. I don't really relate to them, and I don't have the years and years and years, of life with them. So it's challenging.
You've got two individuals, my mom and my sister, with narcissistic tendencies. I love both of them, but they can be very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and moody. They're both kind of moody.
They're both very moody. Amy's got a lot going on with work, and she always feels like she has to do everything and control everything and do the cooking and make sure everybody gets to the ski resort and get all the ticket. She feels like she has to be the one in control of all of that, and
it puts a lot of pressure on her.
It puts a lot of pressure on her. It stresses her out. It tires her out.
She's doing it to herself, but it does put a lot of stress.
It's just stressful, and I feel for her on that front. That's why I try to just stay out of it, and you guys do you, and we'll do us, and I try to separate our family from that whole deal because there's just a lot going on. My mom, she's trying to. When she vacations, it's typically her and her boyfriend, and, we might visit or something like that, but it's quiet for them, and you get a bunch of kids, 7, 8 kids running around, and
she was kind of in charge of your nephews because she brought them up.
Yeah, she was supposed to be watching over my nephews, and it was just, I think it was just a lot of highly emotional. I felt like it was just there was a lot going on, and I don't care how big the house was. It was a lot.
You know what kind of bummed me out, and I told you this, and it was the first time seeing the nephews and your sister-in-law and her family since we had the pregnancy loss of baby Avery.
Yeah.
But there was no acknowledgement, no hug. I'm so sorry for your like. It was less than a month prior, basically, because it was the end of November that it happened.
Yeah.
So it's very fresh for you and I, and I think that kind of bummed me out a little bit too. That I shouldn't be surprised because it's in line with narcissistic tendencies, and we know that I've seen those in my mom as well. So I'm very used to seeing it, but it still bummed me out a little bit that there was.
Well, they didn't even say anything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was.
You know what bummed me out over this Christmas?
What?
My dad didn't even call me on Christmas to tell me, to wish us Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
I was kind of.
Holidays are.
They're rough, man. Like, and I feel like I'm better. I think we're better off just doing our own thing and not setting any expectation because, unfortunately,
we both have grown up in families that are unfortunately kind of good about letting us down.
Yeah.
Mine, we don't talk to anymore. Like, we cut my parents out coming up on 2 years ago now. That we haven't talked to them at all. And it has been extremely healthy for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's crazy, but it has helped immensely. But they constantly growing up, my sister and I were always let down by my parents around holidays. And it wasn't that we had these ridiculously high hopes. It was just, I want to feel seen, I want to feel acknowledged, and I want to feel loved.
Yeah.
Basic needs.
Yeah.
We provide that for each other, and aside from Enzo making his lonely comment, I do feel like he was super excited when we did our Christmas presents, and it was magical, and Santa came, and an elf came, and it was magical for him.
I hate to say it, but my mom spent the night that night. I think she had more fun doing the Christmas with us than she did at the...
I think so.
than she did up north.
Yeah.
I think it was as she's getting older, and it's a lot. I mean, to have all those bodies under one roof and all the commotion, all the noise. Like, I was up every morning with the baby at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's just constant.
You don't ever really get a chance to
The TV was on all the time. Yeah. Very loud.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get a chance to just...
Karaoke on top of the TV.
Take a breath and... Well, yeah, plus the baby... it's not baby-proofed, and I'm constantly... what's the baby going to hurt himself on? How
man,
is this
you
baby
lost it.
Oh.
About the screws.
Oh, yeah. My nephew's got this karaoke machine, and they set it up. They were putting it together, and...
Your mom was watching the baby?
My mom was watching the baby, and she sets him down right in the middle of it, and there's screws all over the floor, and I came unglued.
You did.
And, I started yelling, and I was like, you know what, I felt bad afterwards, but it was bad. I think that was like
you got mad and your sarcasm came out. You were like, "Well, I could fucking trust y'all with a baby."
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
I
think that was probably there was one.
That was like 2 days before.
There was one moment because I had to get up with the baby. The baby gets up at 5 a.m. every morning. No one else is up. I let Bridget typically sleep in. To like 7.
You hate it, but it's your magical time.
That's what I do. I get him up. I would go downstairs. We would get him, changed and get him cleaned up, and I'd feed him a little bit and play with him. And
I think he liked it too because it was quiet.
Yeah, it was quiet, and we did our thing for a couple hours till the sun came up and everybody started coming out of their holes. And I came down one morning. You could tell my nephews had been down there all night, and they just completely trashed the place. There's chip bags and drinks and chips just crushed up on the couch and in the carpet, and the sink's a mess. And that was
Christmas Eve.
That was Christmas Eve, and
that was Christmas morning. And that's when you were like, "I'm done. Pack the truck."
That was my moment where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm ready to go. I can't be here. It took me a little too far, and when we woke up Christmas morning, I didn't even sit down to do presents with them.
No,
you remember that? I was just...
You were in the background packing. Your sister's glaring.
I'm just packing up everything, just throwing it in. I'm grabbing this. I've got all suitcase. Truck was loaded by like 9 a.m. I think we ended up leaving by 10.
Yeah, it was 9:30.
9:30. We were out. I was gone.
You and I the day before shoveled the entire driveway.
That's true. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it anymore. I saw my white Christmas, and I honestly,
I'm ready to be home.
I was ready to go home. I just, it burnt me out. Christmas with family, guys. It's awesome. We
I think we have to learn, and you told me to remind you, like, we need to make our own
arrangements
and traditions and pick who we want to have come over and hang out and share our space with us. Because at the end of the day, like, our space is sacred to us, and our time is sacred to us, and our energy is very sacred to us because it's something we've worked really hard to get, a place of we really enjoy the energy that we have around each other.
Let's just say you would think that, a cabin in the woods for Christmas, you're going to get a bunch of relaxation time and, cozy fire. I came back exhausted, and I'm still exhausted.
And it wasn't just the lack of sleep.
No, it was just emotionally draining.
And constant, it was... Because there was so much noise all the time, it was just constant, like, noise pollution.
I could turn my brain off constantly. And I don't know. I won't do it again. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
We do anything, I would do a cabin if it was just us, but even then I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't want to pack up the truck.
You see why I moved from the East Coast now?
Yeah. I'm like, it was nice, but, me and Bridget spent a good couple hours shoveling a driveway because they got hit with, 12 inches of snow, and it was, and I'm from Arizona. I don't have ski clothes, or, I don't have snow clothes. So, anyway, it was...
I broke out my East Coast shoveling skills, though.
Yeah, you were impressive there. But, I don't know. Holidays with family is overrated, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, let us know how your holidays were. And we are going to jump off and try to get some rest.
Yeah, and if you guys got any advice on how to parent Enzo, let me know.
Thanks for listening.
Bye. Thanks everybody for listening. You can check us out at
freezermilk.com
or Instagram.
Freezer Milk Podcast.
Until next week, guys. Thanks.
Don't forget, parenting is a trip. We are all here on the journey with you together. Thanks so much for listening.